The courtroom cameras captured the exact second Brandon Matthews realized his life was over. Just minutes earlier, the 32-year-old tech entrepreneur had walked into Judge Judy's courtroom wearing a designer suit, carrying a luxury leather briefcase, and smirking like he was the smartest man in the building. Confident, arrogant, untouchable. He believed this entire case was beneath him. To Brandon, Judge Judy wasn't a real judge. She was just a TV personality standing between him and another easy victory. But what Brandon didn't know was that Judge Judy had already spent the previous night studying every document tied to his case. And hidden inside those papers was the beginning of his destruction. Before we get into this unbelievable courtroom collapse, subscribe for more emotional courtroom stories, shocking Judge Judy moments, and viral cases where arrogance finally meets consequences. Now let's begin. Brandon Matthews built his entire identity around winning. At least that's what he told the internet. On social media, he branded himself as a self-made millionaire entrepreneur. His LinkedIn page was filled with motivational posts about dominance, business strategy, and crushing competition. He posted expensive vacations, luxury watches, sports cars, private business meetings, and endless speeches about thinking smarter than everyone else. At age 28, Brandon sold his first startup and became wealthy almost overnight. Or at least, that's how he told the story. What nobody knew was that behind Brandon's success was a pattern of manipulation, betrayal, and carefully hidden fraud. And the man sitting quietly across from him in court was one of his victims. Chen wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud. And unlike Brandon, he didn't spend his life trying to impress strangers online. Michael was a software developer, hardworking, quiet, brilliant. Years earlier, he and Brandon started a tech company together inside Michael's garage. For months, they worked 16-hour days building software while barely surviving financially. Ramen noodles, second-hand furniture sleeping beside laptops. Michael trusted Brandon completely. They agreed to split everything 50-50, equal partners. Equal ownership, equal dreams. Then their app finally succeeded. A major company offered to buy the startup for $200,000. For Michael, it felt like their lives were finally changing. But Brandon saw something else, an opportunity. Because while Michael focused on coding and product development, Brandon quietly focused on paperwork. 2 weeks before the company's sale finalized, Brandon secretly restructured ownership documents, without clearly explaining the changes to Michael, without warning him what was happening. And when Michael signed the updated paperwork trusting his friend, everything changed. After the deal closed, Michael expected his half of the sale. Instead, he received just $10,000. Brandon had changed the ownership split from 50% to 5% and legally positioned himself to take $190,000. When Michael confronted him in shock, Brandon simply laughed. "Business isn't personal," he told him coldly. Then he added the sentence Michael would never forget: "The weak get eaten." For the next 18 months, Michael tried everything: lawyers, complaints, mediation. But Brandon buried him under expensive legal tactics and endless delays. Meanwhile, Brandon kept getting richer, showing off online, acting like a business genius, until one final opportunity appeared. Judge Judy. Brandon actually looked forward to appearing on television. He believed embarrassing Michael publicly would strengthen his personal brand. He even planned to upload clips from the hearing onto his YouTube channel as business lessons. That confidence lasted about 10 minutes. The moment Brandon entered the courtroom, Judge Judy noticed something dangerous. The smirk, the arrogance, the way he spoke to everyone like they were less intelligent than him. She had dealt with people like Brandon for decades. Con artists hiding behind business language, predators calling exploitation strategy. People who confused manipulation with intelligence, and she instantly recognized the pattern. The hearing began calmly. Michael quietly explained how the company started, how they agreed to equal ownership, how Brandon changed the paperwork shortly before the sale. He brought emails, text messages, original partnership documents, every piece of evidence he could gather. Throughout Michael's testimony, Brandon sat there smiling arrogantly, rolling his eyes, acting bored. Then Judge Judy turned toward him, and Brandon made the mistake that destroyed everything. "With all due respect," he began confidently, "I don't think you understand how real business works." The courtroom instantly became tense. Regular Judge Judy viewers already knew nobody says that sentence safely, but Brandon kept going. He spoke to Judge Judy like she was a student who needed business explained to her slowly. He bragged about restructuring ownership, claimed Michael should read the fine print, mocked him for being naive. Then he proudly described how he intentionally used confusing business language to prevent Michael from realizing ownership percentages had changed before the deal closed. And the entire time, Judge Judy let him talk. Because she wasn't interrupting him, she was building a trap. Every arrogant answer Brandon gave became another confession, another admission, another piece of evidence. Then came the turning point. Judge Judy asked him one simple question. What separates smart business strategy from fraud? Brandon smiled confidently like he had been waiting for that exact question. Fraud is lying, he explained proudly. What I did was strategic communication. Then he delivered the sentence that changed everything. If people aren't smart enough to understand contracts, they deserve what happens. The courtroom fell silent. Judge Judy slowly leaned back in her chair and smiled, not warmly, not kindly. The kind of smile people make when they already know how the story ends. Then she opened a thick folder sitting on her desk, and Brandon's confidence instantly cracked. Judge Judy calmly began listing Brandon's history. Previous lawsuits from former business partners, private settlements, fraud complaints, dissolved companies, multiple accusations involving almost identical behavior. With every sentence, Brandon's face became paler. Then Judge Judy revealed something he never expected. Michael had already filed a criminal fraud complaint months earlier, and investigators had contacted Brandon's former business partners. The same partners Brandon thought he had silenced forever through confidential settlements. Suddenly, the entire courtroom understood what was happening. Judge Judy hadn't just exposed one bad deal, she had uncovered a pattern, and Brandon had just confessed to that pattern on national television. His breathing became shaky, his hands trembled visibly. The man who walked into court acting invincible suddenly looked terrified. I want to remain silent, he stammered desperately. Judge Judy's response was brutal. You should thought about that before confessing to fraud for 20 minutes on television. The audience exploded into applause. Michael broke down crying, and Judge Judy delivered the final destruction. You're not a business genius, she told Brandon coldly. You're a predator who mistakes manipulation for intelligence. Then came the verdict, judgment for Michael. Full damages, court costs, and a public recommendation that prosecutors review the footage immediately. By the time Brandon left the courtroom, his entire life was collapsing. Within hours, clips of his humiliation spread across social media. Millions watched the moment his arrogance disappeared. Former associates came forward online with similar stories. Business forums labeled him a fraud. His company website vanished, sponsors disappeared, and weeks later, formal criminal charges were filed. Meanwhile, Michael Chen used the exposure from the case to rebuild his life. He launched a new software company built around ethical business transparency and fair partnerships. And for the first time in years, he finally got justice, because sometimes karma doesn't arrive quietly. Sometimes it walks into a courtroom wearing a black robe and calls itself Judge Judy.